Good morning and welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Europe must be ready to assume more responsibility for its defense and be prepared to offer security guarantees to Ukraine. European Council President António Costa emphasized this in a letter that he sent to heads of state on Thursday ahead of an extraordinary summit in Brussels next week. Now, according to diplomatic sources, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy may attend the talks on the 6th of March, either in person or via video link, really signaling that the summit is going to be a pivotal event. Now, let's go join our EU correspondent, Angela Skujins, coming to us from Brussels. Good morning, Angela. Now, what should we expect those talks to be centered on?
Yes, so there does seem to be a sense of urgency regarding the developing situation in Ukraine. We're, of course, talking about ceasefire negotiations with Russia. These are some of the strongest remarks that we've heard from Brussels so far. The European Council President António Costa published that letter this morning where he said that security guarantees next week needed to be discussed among member states, what they could offer Ukraine to ensure a just and lasting peace is secured there. But on the sidelines of this, the subtext of this letter is, of course, ensuring that Europe has its own security needs. It's meeting them itself. It comes as questions loom across the EU regarding the larger European security architecture. It comes as US President Donald Trump has signalled that he will not come to the aid of Europe anymore when it comes to those security and defensive needs. So we're, of course, expecting all of this to be discussed next week with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who will be in attendance. Other items on the docket will be ongoing military support for Ukraine, but we're expecting some reactions from those EU leaders today regarding those strong comments in that letter and, of course, those final outcomes from next week. But that's all from Brussels. I'll send it back to you in Warsaw.
I mean, I know you did say, Angela, just for a moment there that, I mean, we do expect the outcomes to come out next week after this meeting. But I mean, is there anything that you can tell us about what kind of outcomes these leaders are actually hoping to achieve, especially with everything that has happened so far?
Yes, so what we're hearing from our diplomatic sources is that there is a need to ramp up security and defence for Europe. I think that what they're implying is support for Ukraine because, you know, Ukraine is the doorstep to Europe. So if Russia pushes past Ukraine, Europe is in serious trouble. But it also comes with Europe's security and defensive needs on its own. The rhetoric that we're hearing here is that the EU needs to invest more in its own manufacturing, production. So I think these are some of the needs that will need to be addressed next week before the EU Defensive Commissioner Andrius Kubilius hands down his EU White Paper on Defence, which should show how EU member states spend more effectively. But, you know, this letter today really signifies that the EU is kind of getting quite serious on this matter. We're not really sure what those security guarantees could look like, whether it'll mean boots on the ground in terms of peacekeeping efforts or the like. But yeah, I guess we will kind of have to wait and see and collect some more information today from our other sources.
Thank you so much, Angela Skujins, coming to us live from Brussels. We will be coming back to you throughout the day. Diplomats from Russia and the United States have convened in Istanbul on Thursday for a fresh round of talks aimed at mending the strained relationship between the two countries. Now, the discussions follow a shift in U.S. policy under Donald Trump's administration, which moved away from isolating Russia and instead sought to restore ties with Moscow. Now, the discussions are led by the respective top diplomats of each country, Marco Rubio from the United States and Sergei Lavrov from Russia. Now, the main focus of the meeting is expected to revolve around restoring diplomatic missions in Moscow and Washington, D.C. Now, the U.S. State Department said that Thursday's talks do not include discussions on Ukraine. However, American officials view these meetings as a test of Russia's commitment to engage in meaningful discussion. Kyiv and Washington have reached an agreement on a draft deal concerning Ukraine's mineral deposits. Now, Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal announced the news, revealing the details of the bilateral agreement establishing terms and conditions for a reconstruction investment fund.
Ukraine has an abundant supply when it comes to minerals. This is a preliminary agreement that provides for further legal action, meaning the future creation of an investment fund for the reconstruction of Ukraine, where both Ukraine and the United States will manage and fill up this fund on equal footing.
International companies might hesitate to invest in Ukraine due to security concerns. But a new deal with Washington could suggest it is safe and profitable to continue investing in Ukraine.
Someone needs to excavate these deposits, and you need money for that. Right now, Ukraine spends money on the war and their survival. Some companies need to put money there, whether they'll be American or European. That's a matter of negotiations. But Ukraine certainly doesn't want Russian companies to work on the deposits.
The new deal between Washington and Kyiv details a plan for that.
Future revenues received by Ukraine from rents or licenses for minerals, from dividends on infrastructure facilities used for transportation or extraction of the relevant minerals, this will be Ukraine's contribution. We will invest 50% of such revenues into this fund, jointly with the US, for the recovery of Ukraine.
Some of Ukraine's deposit sites are currently occupied by Russia. While the agreement does not mention any deposits by location, it does detail the US support for Ukraine's efforts to obtain security guarantees needed to establish lasting peace.
During his first official cabinet meeting at the White House, President Donald Trump commented on the ongoing peace talks between Ukraine, Russia, and the United States, saying that Washington would not grant any special security guarantees for Kyiv should peace with Moscow be reached.
We're doing very well with Russia, Ukraine. President Zelenskyy is going to be coming on Friday. That's now confirmed, and we're going to be signing an agreement, which will be a very big agreement. And I want to thank Howard and Scott for the job you guys did in putting it together. You really did an amazing job. And that'll be on rare earth and other things. And as you know, we're in for probably $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. And that's a big difference. So we're in for probably 3 times as much, and yet it's very important to everybody, but Europe's very close. We have a big ocean separating us, so it's very important for Europe, and they hopefully will step up and do maybe more than they're doing, and maybe a lot more. Well, I'm not going to make security guarantees beyond very much. We're going to have Europe do that because it's in, we're talking about Europe as their next door neighbor. But we're going to make sure everything goes well, and as you know, we'll be really partnering with Ukraine in terms of rare earth. We very much need rare earth. They have great rare earth.
Well, we just heard Trump say that, but security guarantees will be a top priority in talks with Trump. This is what Zelenskyy said in his address to the nation. Ukraine's head of state will travel to Washington, D.C. on Friday.
Our teams are engaging with the United States, and we are preparing for negotiations this Friday. The agreement with the United States, support for our country and our people, peace and security guarantees, these are key to ensuring that Russia never again destroys the lives of other nations. I will meet with President Trump. It is crucial for me and for all of us in the world that American aid is not halted. Strength is essential on the path to peace.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrived in Washington, D.C. following the announcement of the largest increase in London's defense budget since the Cold War. Now, during his visit to the United States, Starmer is scheduled to meet President Trump. In a statement delivered at the British Embassy in Washington, Starmer emphasized the importance of U.S.-UK relations and highlighted the shared values that bind both countries.
I'm here to meet another close friend of the United Kingdom, President Trump. And my message is really simple, that there is no more important relationship for the United Kingdom in defence, in security, in trade, in tech, in finance, and so much more. We share fundamental values of openness, of democracy, freedom of speech, freedom to thrive, and freedom to pursue the future. A freedom which, this week, we've shown our willingness to defend with the biggest sustained increase in our defence spending since the Cold War.
The European Commission will, quote, react firmly and immediately following Donald Trump's remarks on introducing a 25% tariff on imports from the European Union. Now, the spokesperson for the EU Commission called Trump's plan an unjustified barrier to free and fair trade, adding that the tariffs are used to challenge legal and non-discriminatory policies. Now, Washington is expected to announce the tariffs shortly. Trump hinted the move during his first cabinet meeting on Wednesday, claiming that the EU was created with the intention to cause harm to the United States. The European Commission spokesperson responded to that statement, saying that by actually creating a large and integrated single market, the EU has facilitated trade and reduced costs for U.S. exporters. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski arrived in Tokyo on Wednesday and is scheduled to attend meetings with his Japanese counterpart and the Minister of Defense. Now, in a statement released on social media, Sikorski mentioned the importance of Japan as a partner amid increased threats from Poland and Japan's shared neighbor, Russia.
After Washington, D.C. and New York, it's time for Japan. It's an important country that we share one neighbor with. We will meet with the Japanese Ministers of Defense and Foreign Affairs. Let's also bear in mind that Japan is hosting the Expo conference, where Poland will be significantly represented.
According to South Korean intelligence, Pyongyang has deployed additional troops to Russia. However, no information on the number of those troops has been released, as Seoul says the scale is still being assessed. Now, according to reports by South Korean media, the forces will join Russian troops fighting Ukrainian advances in the border region of Russia. So far, North Korea has deployed over 11,000 troops and has spent various weapons to Moscow to be used on the battlefield. The information comes amid reports of North Korean troops retreating from the front lines in the Kursk region. Now, the head of Ukraine's intelligence agency, Kirill Budanov, however, denied these accounts. He also admitted that the number of North Korean troops on the Kursk battlefields has indeed decreased. President of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, has called the one-year jail verdict against Bosnia's Serb separatist leader, Milorad Dodik, bizarre and senseless. The charges stem from Dodik's refusal to comply with rulings issued by the international envoy overseeing Bosnia's peace accords.
This is Republika Srpska President Milorad Dodik demonstrating his sentiments towards the sentence he's been handed. Dodik believes he is innocent and has a powerful supporter in Serbia's President Aleksandar Vučić, who visited Banja Luka urging dialogue.
This verdict is directed first and foremost against Republika Srpska, and it is directed against all Serb people.
Milorad Dodik was sentenced to 1 year in jail and banned from holding the office of president for 6 years, as punishment for defying the orders of an international peace envoy. Dodik has 2 weeks to appeal the sentence.
We are ready to talk with everyone. I am ready to talk with all the representatives of the Bosniak people and the Croat people, so that we can all come together to say and see at this important moment how to build a constitutional and sustainable Bosnia-Herzegovina for all. But we don't want to bow to a process, the aim of which is to subordinate us and to strip us of the rights we have acquired.
Republika Srpska is one of the 2 federal entities within Bosnia and Herzegovina. It is inhabited by a majority ethnic Serb population. Its leader, Milorad Dodik, has maintained friendly relations with Vladimir Putin. Russia has condemned the court's ruling against the separatist leader.
And that's all for this edition of World News here on TVP World. I'm Diana Skyev. Thanks for watching.